Hello.
Lovely to see you. Thank you
Nice
very
to
much
see
for
you.
coming over.
Thank you for inviting me.
Probably lots to chat about. I'd like to know just a little bit about you and where you came from and tech through and through, or recent tech, or how did it all start?
So recent tech for me. This is my third reinvention. I was in banking for 10 years. Then I was in government for 10 years, and in fact, over the last 5 years, I was the British Consul General to New York, so a diplomat.
Wow.
And during my time in New York, I spent a lot of my time and effort focusing on helping entrepreneurs and tech companies on both sides of the Atlantic. So US tech companies setting up over here, and the same for the US. And look, I've always been fascinated by tech, and the more time I spent with entrepreneurs and startups, the more I decided that my third reinvention was going to be in that space. And Blippar was a company that I came across probably 3 years ago now.
Yep.
I just loved the vision of what the company is doing, and here I am, lucky enough to be a part of it now.
So did you approach them and say, this is what I'd like to do? Or
It was one of those, but it took a very long time, because I don't think either of us started the conversation thinking that I would join. But I was very interested in what the company was doing, and they were always interested to kind of get my views, especially as they were expanding in the US. And like everything in life, I think it's sort of born out of that, organic relationship with the founder, with Rish, and we really hit it off. And I saw the company grow phenomenally over 2 years, and we would catch up very frequently. And eventually, I started talking about what I might do next, and it just sort of happened.
Wow. Yeah. How different is it to the previous reinventions?
It's fascinating. Very, very different. I mean, I think. Well, for starters, I'm very much used to being kind of the young person in an older person's world. So there I was as the diplomat in New York, and I'm 42, and I joined Blippar. The average age is 27, so I sort of overnight took that to around 29, and I love that. Just the sort of the fresh ideas, the speed, the sort of not having to think about consequences probably so much, but just kind of executing. And using your imagination in a way that probably I hadn't been exposed to before. So absolutely loving it.
How fantastic. So I've been doing a lot of kind of investigation around Blippar, and I'm just really interested in how the company started and the vision. I just think it's really interesting the way that it's formed out of this new way of connecting consumers with brands. What do you think has been the kind of proudest moments in the progression so far, other than you joining?
Well, obviously, I think it's been the journey that the company is on. The company has been on over the last 5.5 years. So Blippar was founded in 2011, and if you think about AR in 2011, it wasn't exactly something that people were jumping to talk about. So you already see the vision of two people who kind of saw this coming. So the original idea, as you know, was to create AR experiences for brands. And that for 2 years was an extremely successful strategy that led to onboarding over 1,000 brands, some of them the most iconic on the planet. But the fascinating thing for me is that the founders just had this aha moment where they realized that users were pointing their phone at branded products and getting really cool experiences being triggered. But what happened if you removed the branded product from your line of sight? You had nothing, because the app was essentially taking in the real world but not giving you any content. So that aha moment was to say, well, hang on, surely we need to understand the reality in front of us before we really look to augment it. And so then comes the AI, so the computer vision and the deep learning, and this ambition to try and index and catalog the entire world and be able to give you valuable information on everyday objects, animals, plants, people, whatever it might be. And actually that's also the way to really be able to scale AR, by providing more and more immersive AR content on the back of extremely accurate recognition. And I think when I think about the proudest moment, I suppose for me, is the fact that the founders had the vision to realize that that was not a change in strategy, but actually the evolution of what the company had to.
I having looked, I've obviously had a look at some of the branded projects that you've done, and there's obviously the stuff you did with Emirates about the in-flight entertainment. There's the stuff that you've done with lipstick, and I can't remember which brand it was, but the ability to test different shades of red lipstick and see it on you, which
Max Factor
is something that you find really valuable. But and that's all great, but it was that moment, wasn't it, where you could point it at a computer keyboard and it would tell you the provenance of that and send you,
Yeah, and I think if you think about the brands, and I suppose, again, this is part of that journey where initially, I think it's fair to say that AR in 2011, 2012 was sort of still ticking the innovation box. You kind of knew you wanted to have a play with it, but not necessarily sure it was really adding value. But then you actually start looking at the use cases and, pointing your phone at a cereal packet, Lucky Charms, General Mills. So what's that actually doing? Actually, you're solving a problem for a company that has relied for decades on putting a toy inside the cereal box. So, kids have their cereal, they get incredibly excited about, being able to open the box up and get that toy once. But of course, you introduce AR into it, no longer do you have the need to put the toy in the box, but actually then trigger fun games time and time again. And so that's a sort of perfect marriage of, the data you need to accumulate to be able and understand to be able to know that that's the behavior that people want, and then provide the technology to actually make that happen.
And I think that's so I'm going to come back to the data because I'm really interested in that. But has stuff like this really changed this, the whole kind of supply chain and the logistics chain? Because presumably, if we take that example, previously there would be a supply chain to put the toy in, and that takes up valuable space in the box, and we'll deal with the consumer thing. That must be like a major change in the way that companies, packaged goods companies, particularly their whole logistical thing works.
I mean,
more room for cereal, which is
exactly.
going to mean that. And then there's the consumer experience of that. So it's about taking that moment of excitement and high and then making it not just a one-off. And that's like a kind of ongoing engagement with the brand. That's phenomenal. So let's talk about the data then. How do you collect the data and store the data, and then what do you use the data for?
So the data is fascinating because it allows brands to be able to know what type of engagement is happening with their product, which previously they wouldn't have been able to do. And my favorite example is actually a catalog. You post a catalog, and what happens? You have no idea. It goes to the letterbox. I mean, you just have no idea. But what if you're then able to figure out that actually page 17 is the most popular, and within page 17 it's whatever product is in kind of the upper right hand corner, and then you start getting a pattern of what might be right for that catalog, or what might be right for that particular street, or what might be right for that particular city. And so I think the key for us is being able to go back to the brands who work with us and give them that sort of data around dwell time. I mean, again,
immersion, depth, and
I mean, the going back to the cereal pack, another good example. Are people doing this once, or are they doing it every single day? If you're in the cereal business, you know how long a pack lasts. So, gosh, actually, this is happening every day, and it's happening every morning, and
so
it's happening for 3 minutes.
Predict when that pack is finished.
Yeah.
And I think actually, so we do a lot of work with the CPG industry and the FMCG industry, and they are an industry that's hugely, data and insights hugely important to them, but they've always been kind of one step removed from not only the point of purchase, but the transactional data, and so this must be incredibly valuable for them, bringing them nearer to the consumer experience.
Totally, and I suppose I think the key thing we all try to figure out is the technology is moving at such a fast pace, and actually you're capturing data just as fast, even faster, and you've just got so much of it. And it's, well, what do you do with all this data? And what questions do you ask to be able of the data to be able to give you the sorts of interesting responses that will lead to the technology being applied to a particular use case? And that's something we talk a lot about, because you mix creativity and technology, you put those together, and you have a shot in the dark, because it might work, but if you actually add the data piece there, and you're able to your point, ask all the right questions, then actually you start having a hypothesis which might not work, but then it works on the back of what you've got, and then you iterate and you iterate and you iterate, and you keep carrying on, and that's key for us.
So obviously you're using AI, which is something we're all talking about. But it seems to me that you're using it in two really important ways. So you're using it to learn and to evolve the experience, but you also, I imagine, are using it to do the huge analytics at scale, which because the data that you're gathering is very varied, very fast, and coming at you. So do you have a huge team of data analysts internally?
So we, in terms of the AI, at the moment we're actually far more focused on the computer vision piece
Okay.
than the actual analytics, because sort of to my earlier point, we're essentially indexing the world by verticals. And to give you an example, we have just in the US, we now have the ability to recognize every single car in the country from the year 2000, and with an accuracy rate above 94%, we can give you a make, model, and year, and it just any car in the country. So we have deep learned data sets of all the cars in the country. Obviously that's incredibly interesting to the auto companies because people are engaged with cars all of the time, but then you're able to overlay the current advertising campaign for that car year 2017. The analytics piece, to your point, is equally important, but we're sort of combining both, and at the moment the computer vision piece is a real priority.
What's next?
What's next? I mean, I suppose if you asked Google what was next in '97 and '98,
they wouldn't.
So I think for us, we again going back, we started with AR. We realized really quickly that to scale AR, you needed AI.
Yeah.
That's something we're in the midst of right now. It will take time. This won't happen overnight. I mean, just, to give you an example, we recognize around 5 million entities right now.
5 million entities.
And we relate that to 30,000 words, and 30,000 words that might express sentiment, so happiness, darkness, but then entities are people or objects or whatever it might be. So we connect all of that, and that we have the understanding. It was the equivalent of probably a 7-8-year-old right now, and you've got to think that 18 months ago we had nothing.
Yeah.
But that 7-year-old understanding is generic. Then when it comes to verticals, then clearly that's highly developed. So my car example being one. So what we want to provide is an AR browser that's on the back of visual search is able to trigger hugely valuable content. And if you think of that example of you see something that you really like, and it might be an item of clothing, and it's a red dress, and you want to describe that red dress in that moment to be able to find out more about it, it's actually a really difficult thing to do.
It is hugely
red
difficult.
Dress, and then
Short,
you might...
long, summer, winter. I mean, there's so much taxonomy involved.
Exactly. Whereas pointing your phone at that red dress and either being able to pinpoint exactly the one it is or similar ones is hugely powerful. So we're going really fast and incredibly excited about where this is going.
And are you still working with brands? I mean, do you still have? I mean, I get the kind of the huge consumer benefit, which, I mean, sorry brands, far outweighs a branded experience of being able to catalogue everything. I mean, that's fundamental, evolution of search and interaction and engagement and knowledge generation. I mean, that's an important thing to be doing for the world.
Yeah.
So alongside that, are you still kind of partnering with brands? Is that a core part of your strategy?
So very much so.
Yeah.
The brands that we've been working with for years now and that we keep getting repeat business from, the projects get more and more exciting because our tech is so much better. And also AR is here now. I mean, the mood music around AR has been, over the last 3 or 4 years, I think there's always that conclusion of, is this the year where it really explodes?
Is it going to?
Probably not quite, but it's going to be next year. And then you had exactly the same conversation the following year. I mean, it feels to us that we really are at that point right now. And I think Facebook's announcement just 10 days ago, where actually 12 months ago for Facebook, AR was 5 years ago, was 5 years away. And as of 10 days, AR is now. So it feels like it's very much there. And from a brand perspective, as I say, we'll continue to work with them on being able to do far more, not just about campaigns, but actually delivering solutions for them.
Yes.
Something that we're really keen on, and we sort of talk about this concept of democratizing AR, where we don't want to be gatekeepers or actually the only ones in town who do a lot of these campaigns. So we've developed a set of self-service platforms which we encourage agencies, media publishers to use. So we have a licensing model for them, and as far as we're concerned, we want as many people in the world going and doing this. And some agencies will be able to do this completely on their own, and they will just use our technology, and we're a technology partner to them. Some others might need a bit of help, and that will involve some consultancy and some partnership, maybe for a few months, and then they're off on their own with the technology. And I think fundamental thing for us is that we're a tech company at the end of the day. We are device agnostic, so at the moment, the Blippar app is in people's phones because the phone has the computing power and everybody uses it. But who knows where the world is going? Headsets, the moment headsets become cooler, then we can do far more with that too.
So, your first year at Cannes.
Yes.
What are you hoping for, expecting to see? Have you entered anything?
So very...
that's a lot of questions wrapped up in
one. So first time, as you say, not for Blippar. So I know that from the trip last year, we developed some fantastic relationships with agencies actually that have led to some really interesting opportunities this year. And I think it'll be really interesting to measure the shift of how people have embraced AR over the last 12 months, where I think, back to my point earlier, some agencies saw it last year and we've done some really interesting things with them, and some others were probably a little bit more skeptical. I think that will really change. And so what my hope will happen is that we will have even better conversations this year that will lead to those partnerships, and again to the point I made earlier, really being able to position ourselves as a technology partner to agencies and their clients, and thinking about what we bring to the party. So we've never tried to compete with agencies. Agencies for us are very passionate about consumer needs, connecting the brand story, creative ideas, and we're bringing an innovative platform and a user interface that we think is very interesting for the agency's clients. So that's kind of where we are, and I'm told it's crazy. I'm told it's sort of 24/7.
It's
so
weird.
Embracing myself.
I think if you go and we were just chatting a bit before. The first year you go and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And you think, gosh, this is amazing. And then you have a few years when you dabble around, and then I've sat on the creative data jury for the last couple of years, and that's a very different Cannes experience. But you do get to see a lot of what's going on and what is brilliant. And I think it will be very interesting to see. I'm not on the jury this year, but there are a few things that I've seen kind of nascently appearing in the data jury in the last 2 years, this being one of them.
Yeah.
It's like, when do those, AI was nascent last year, AR was nascent last year. I think it'd be very interesting to see as we look at the winners this year, when these things they move from being that to something that's a recognised part of a connected brand story on behalf of brands.
Yeah. Well, hugely exciting.
I hope I see you there.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to meet you.
Thanks very much. You too.